We are here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bringing news just for you. It's Thursday, June 20th here in Seoul. I'm Song Yujin, and welcome to News Generation. Today we're joined by Choi Ji-hee.
Good morning.
Happy Thursday, and Cheska Dainha.
Happy Thursday, everyone!
Happy Thursday! Now, both are here to speak on behalf of those in their 20s and 30s. Now, as usual, we're going to start with our news feed, which covers different hashtags and news items that have been trending online over the past 24 hours. For those in Korea, if you thought yesterday was sweltering hot, well, you were absolutely right. Most parts of the country saw daytime temperatures soaring to their highest this year. The mercury hit 37.7 degrees Celsius in Gyeongju, Gyeongsangbuk-do province, and 35.6 degrees Celsius in Seoul. Now, this led to the issuance of more heat wave advisories across the country, including the first of the year for Seoul. The advisory is issued when the highest feel-like temperature is expected to reach 33 degrees Celsius or higher for at least 2 days. In other news, a new survey by global consulting firm Deloitte on 13 Asia-Pacific countries from February to March shows that the younger generations and those in developing economies are leading the way in using generative AI. The survey found that 81% of university students and 62% of office workers use these tools. Among the polled countries, India had the highest percentage of generative AI users at 87%, followed by Southeast Asian countries at 76%. Finally, moving on, Korea's Kemoim, a term for people who form groups to save money for future expenses, has caught the attention of international media as a unique way to maintain strong friendships. The New York Times highlighted this tradition on Tuesday, noting how prevalent it is to form these groups with friends to plan vacations, meals, and other social activities together. The Kemoim group works like this. Each member sends a set amount of money at regular intervals to a designated bank account with the exact amount and frequency decided by the group. The report analyzed that while collective financial planning has a long history worldwide, Kemoim groups work in Korea due to their unique culture of strong trust in others. Now, this means participants in these groups trust that other members will contribute their share equally and will not misappropriate the pooled funds. Now, here in the studio, I want to ask you, have you ever been part of this Kemoim group, and do you also agree with the report saying that this works in Korea due to its unique, strong trust in other people?
You know, it's really interesting because I never thought about it that way. I sort of grew up both in Korea and in the States, and especially in America, I think something like Kemoim is kind of difficult to think about.
Oh, why?
Because let me just explain, and it has nothing to do with the personality, but I think it has to do with more of a cultural thing. As we talked about, I think in Korea it is possible because of the more, collective idea of people coming together. And as we discussed, as you read in the news, it has a lot to do with trust. I mean, think about it. You're actually depositing money into a person with a complete trust that the person will handle the money and then pull it together until the time comes. And a lot of my older aunts actually do Kemoim, and they have this pooled traveling fund, and they travel to like Morocco, Turkey, New Zealand, like the places that I haven't even been to.
Really?
Yeah, and they're much older than I am, and they go and take these photos, and they say, oh, it's a Kemoim travel. So I've definitely seen it around like my older generation, but as someone who's lived overseas, I'm not too sure if our generation is doing it. I don't know, Ji, do you have experience with it? Do you guys have experience with it?
Well, I've never been part of a Kemoim, but I've always talked with my friends whether we should like make a bank account and start a Kemoim to like plan for traveling, because it's so hard to like manage our schedules and like set a date where we can travel together. So I want to toss the question to Ji. Do you see like other millennials and Gen Z around you doing this Kemoim?
Well, myself, I've never been a part of this Kemoim, just like both of you. But many people around me, including my mom and brother, who's a millennial, are a part of these groups, and they use their mutual fund to, like Cheska said, to travel abroad or even host fancy end-of-year parties.
Wow.
And I agree that this is all based on the unique culture of trust in Korea, as the New York Times has said. And I also think it's because Korea is a more collectivist culture, just like Cheska mentioned, compared to the Western individualistic culture. So people tend to value like that bond, that sense of doing things together, and that sense of belonging to a group. And they see the value in it and they enjoy it. And if it's a way of keeping you motivated, then I think it's something that should be introduced and spread worldwide.
Then maybe to help it become more worldwide, maybe we should start our own Kemoim on
New-gen
Newsfed. What do you
Kemoim.
think?
I will think about it.
We'll respect that too.
Okay, well, while Cheska thinks about it,
I'm
then
kidding.
why not move on to our main discussion topic of the day? That was our news feed for this Thursday. So actually moving on to our topic of the day.
Yes.
Now, if you have a furry companion at home or if you are an animal lover, now this topic is for you. So let's take a look at the screen to find out more. This is Tambi. She's an almost 2-year-old Pomsky. It's been a little over 1.5 years since she joined our family. I call her my little sister because, to me, she really is like a sister from another mister. She makes me happy, though sometimes she makes me angry, but my life has gotten fuller because of Tanbi. Just like myself, more people are recognizing themselves as being part of the Petfam, which means a group of people who see pets as their companions and family. What's the Petfam culture like in Korea and in other parts of the world? Well, just looking at today's VCR is already making us smile and laugh. So cute. Oh, not that she's my dog, not because she's my dog, but anyway, as we've already talked about, there is a continuous rise in pet parents. Now, these people were once called pet owners, but they now seem to prefer to call themselves as pet parents because they want to emphasize the emotional connection and responsibility that comes with having a pet. So starting off, how many pet parents are we seeing in Korea, Jihi?
Well, we're living in a country with about 15 million pet parents.
Wow.
Yeah, that's more than the population of the capital, Seoul. So first, let's take a look at the screen for more numbers. So according to the 2023 Korea Pet Report, 1 out of every 4 households has a companion animal. Now, while dogs and cats are common pets, there are also turtles, goldfish, porcupines, parrots, rabbits, hamsters,
on and on.
It goes on and on and on, and many other varieties. And the number of people considering their pets as a family is increasing. And as a result, the pet market, of course, is continuously growing as well.
Right. So looking at the stats that we've just saw, more people are actually regarding pets as their family. We're seeing more people adopting pets or these companion animals in their lives. Now, I think that recently, in the past years, this has led to people, pet families or pet fams, parents, investing more in their furry companions, right?
That's right. So as I just mentioned, the pet industry is continuously expanding, leading to increased investments in our furry or shelled companions, whatnot. And this includes myself as well, because I've talked about this multiple times in Houston, actually. My 20-year-old furry younger sister.
She's adorable.
Well, in particular, travel products that allow your companion animal to come along, such as special accommodations or flights, are very popular these days. And pet parents are opting to pay extra money to be able to travel with their pets.
Right.
And a new pet-friendly airline has recently launched service in the United States where you can have your pet sit next to you on the airplane.
Oh, that sounds nice.
Yeah, it does. So I had to bring my dog Cherry via flight because she's from Thailand.
Oh, right.
Yes, and I remember having to quarantine her and make her travel in a cage in the cargo area for almost 6 hours. And if this new pet-friendly airline was available then, I would have definitely paid more to have Cherry sit next to me.
Right. I think that we're seeing more of these pet-friendly services, travel services, especially as more people are on the road. They're traveling more these days. Now to you, Cheska, I know that you don't have a pet at the moment. So I want to ask your thoughts on this high-end sort of luxury pet culture, and are there any examples that drew your attention besides these the services that you mentioned?
Yeah, so I think I can definitely provide a more analytical or outside perspective, because as you mentioned, as of now, I don't have any pets, but I love animals. I've been a pet sitter and I worked at a horse farm when I was in New Zealand. So I'm very close to a different type of furry animals also. But even though I have experience with puppies and furry animals, this luxury branding or luxury spending is a bit foreign and very interesting to me. And some of the examples I found might interest some of our viewers. So the things that I came up with was these very, very high quality, hotel quality 3-tier birthday cakes.
I've never had a 3-tier birthday cake in my life.
I think the most I've gotten was a 1.5 tier, not even like full 2 tier.
For me, I think it's a 1-tier cake.
Exactly. Or like a luxury spa where they give you a full massage for the dogs. And get this, Chihi mentioned the new airline service, right? There's a private jet, first-class airline service specifically for dogs. And when you walk in, they bring out a dish, and when you open it, there's a shoe. Yeah, there's a shoe. It's a chew toy for a dog, specifically for a dog.
So cute.
And they start pouring like champagne on the dog bowl. It's a full first-class service that you get for these kind of very, very high-end services. And obviously, there are many owners who are willing to do it. That's why the market is growing. And I just wish I was just as privileged as those dogs.
Me too. I hope I could have my own shoe to chew on.
Yeah, my own little toy, my own little snack.
Right. So Chi talked about like services in Korea. Cheska also gave examples overseas. So it seems like the pet culture is definitely becoming bigger here, not only here in Korea, but around the world. So to find out more, we also asked our viewers what kind of pet culture has caught their attention recently, and here's what 3 of them had to say. So if we look at the comments, Leon says the pet culture I'm interested in is having small, low-maintenance pets and tech-savvy pet care items that are trendy nowadays, like smart feeders, water dispensers, and pet cameras. Sunny J says the pet culture catching my eye these days is that people are taking care of their pets more like their kids. I can easily see expensive pet strollers or carriers, and there are even kindergartens and hotels, right, for pets where they are actually educated on socializing and basic etiquette. User QD5 says, I think the society is becoming more pet-friendly. Food, snacks, or goods, even including clothes for pets, can be easily found in convenience stores all the time. At the same time, it's heartbreaking to see abandoned pets living in very poor shelter conditions. Now, this is actually mentioned in the last comment. We're going to talk about this right now. So as we've talked about high-end luxury pet cultures, on the flip side, as more people are adopting pets, there's been an increase in also abandoned animals in the country. It's becoming a bigger issue here in Korea. And these animals are sent to temporary shelters if they're found. But unfortunately, some of these shelters often aren't in the best condition for the animals to live in, right, Ji?
That's right. Well, it's very unfortunate that we're witnessing an increase in both the interest in companion animals and the number of pets being abandoned. It's like the gap between the wealthy and poor among people as well. So let's take a look at the screen once again for more statistics. So unfortunately, around 100,000 companion animals are abandoned each year and end up either being cared for or euthanized in shelters. While some are fortunate enough to be adopted by new families who provide them with care, the reality is that the majority are euthanized after a certain period of time because shelters are unable to indefinitely accommodate a large number of these animals. And you can sometimes see abandoned dogs on the streets as well. In fact, a few years ago, my sister found an abandoned and abused dog on the road. She jumped in, blocking all the cars to save her. And the dog, later named Bambi, quite similar to your Tambi, was severely abused and had health problems. And she was scared of humans when she was first found. But my sister took care of Bambi, got her surgery, and raised her until she passed away.
That's so nice. I hope we could see more responsible people like your sister more here in our society. Now, Cheska, I want to ask you, what are some other reasons why these rescued animals who are sent to temporary shelters, some of the difficulties that they face?
Yeah, I think the topic of today is the two extremes, right? So we talked about the extreme luxury branding, and then now we're talking about how these animals are treated, the ones who can't get a proper care. And obviously, as Jihi mentioned, I think overcrowding is definitely a problem. Yes, there are systematic issues, but also the fact that there's a growing number of these abandoned dogs on the streets or by the people. It is almost virtually impossible for shelters to take care of them. But also there is an overt cruelty that does happen in the shelters as well. As we talked about, some of the dogs are just put down without any anesthesia. And sometimes, there have been reported, accounts of, mold in the feed, growing insects and pesticides because they can't get a proper cleaning. So there are some very, very inherent issues that are happening at at the moment because of the lack of attention and care that can be put into many increasing number of abandoned dogs and just the limited number of people that are taking care of the shelters.
Right. So not all temporary shelters are like that, but we're actually seeing some of the extreme examples on media. So it's definitely an issue that we should be tackling of. Now, as Cheska mentioned, we're seeing this duality when it comes to pet culture here in Korea, where some animals live luxurious lives while others end up in harsh conditions, sometimes even have to be put down. Why do you think we're seeing these two extremes?
Well, I think the main issue is that people don't think deeply enough before choosing to raise a pet. It's not a decision to be made lightly, of course. You should consider your financial situation, as raising a pet requires spending money on food, care, and other essentials for the animal.
Definitely.
And you also need to assess your living conditions and environment as well. If you're rarely at home and decide to get a dog, for example, it's not the best for your pet. And choosing to raise a pet, I think, requires a lot of prior thought and responsibility. And it even deserves as much contemplation as adopting a child, because it's about taking care of another living being. Unfortunately, people are often quite selfish and think they can choose to raise and abandon these animals depending on their situation. And some even buy dogs that are trendy, like in breed. And then later they choose to abandon them when they go out of trend.
Right. They call the popular breed. So we see a lot of certain types of dogs. And then a few years later, we see a lot of another type of dog. Now, anything that you'd like to add to our discussion right now, Cheska?
You know, as we talked about, there are some inherent systematic problems as well. For instance, the lack of shelter, number of shelters, or as we mentioned, the breeding market also, because a lot of the times, because some people want to buy very specific dogs for a specific purpose, these breeders actually focus on breeding a more popular dog to raise the prices or sell them at a higher price, right? But I think also another thing that we need to be aware of is, especially I think our generation started adopting dogs, I think too frequently and too easily for multiple reasons. I mean, especially since COVID or during COVID, some people started adopting because they wanted some consolation for the loneliness they felt. And then after that issue was solved, they would just abandon it. Where some people even buy it to spice up their social feed and then just brag about it, but then don't realize the full responsibility and the commitment it comes to actually raise a living thing, whether it's to train them, take them to the hospital, educate them, and then become fully responsible for their lives as well as their own. So, and then once the real problem hits, they seek the easy way out, which is just to abandon them on the streets.
Right. It definitely needs dedication, responsibility, and commitment to welcome a new furry companion to your family. Now, to find out more about pet culture in other parts of the world and how we can tackle the issue of abandoned animals, which we're talking about right now, we're going to invite an expert to join our discussion right after this break. Right, so today we're joined by Abigail Forsyth, campaign coordinator at People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals Asia, an international nonprofit organization dedicated to animal rights. Good morning, Abigail.
Good morning. Hi, thank you so much for having me on the show.
Great, lovely to have you. So our first question to you is, how serious is the issue of animal abandonment in Asia?
Yeah, I mean, it's a serious issue across Asia and beyond. In most places, there are no regulations on breeding facilities or on ownership. And you've already touched on many of the important issues that people can purchase an animal on a whim. And so many of these animals are trendy at the time. I can watch a video of a cute dog today on social media, and I can go out and buy a dog in 5 minutes without considering that this is a 15 or 20-year commitment. So then we're seeing so many animals abandoned on the streets because people haven't considered that length of duty of care. Maybe they move house and they leave them behind, or they're no longer in a position to be able to care for them. And then these animals produce offspring due to people's failure to spay and neuter their animals, which then, of course, leads to more unwanted animals on the street. And these animals suffer in numerous ways on the streets. They're at risk of, contracting contagious diseases, being involved in accidents. Just a few days ago, I pulled a kitten out of the engine of a vehicle that was turned on. So there are just so many horrendous ways that animals can suffer when they're abandoned on the streets.
I see. Well, we're seeing this problem, but very briefly, what do you think this should be done, policy or law-wise, to prevent all these animal abandoned problem?
So regulations must be introduced to restrict breeding. We're seeing the constant breeding of cats and dogs in puppy mills and kitten mills. And Peter has investigated these facilities in South Korea and in countries across Asia. And the animals are being forced to churn out litter after litter, and this huge number of animals that are for sale. Every time somebody buys an animal, they're supporting this industry, and they're also denying the chance of an animal in a shelter to find a loving home. And shelters are now having to turn away animals because they're at capacity, and this leads to more animals abandoned on the street. And also regulations that require pet guardians to de-sex their animals would have a huge impact. And more government support and funding for local organisations that spay and neuter domestic and stray animals.
Abigail, in Korea, we have a saying called adopt, don't shop. Do you have any advice or thoughts on this? Because adopting is also a very, very important process that requires a lot of thought in it.
Of course, and as you've said already, that for most people who are wanting to bring an animal into their home, they're welcoming them as a new member of their family. And, it's a huge commitment. You are welcoming a new member to your family, and it's a commitment that can last up to 20 years. So this does deserve a thorough process. And while it can feel frustrating to prospective animal guardians that this, these checks can be quite lengthy, there's a reason behind this, and it ensures that these animals are placed into safe environments. It also reduces the risk that these animals are returned to the shelter or they're abandoned again on the street. And it's also great for the animal guardians because it ensures that there will be a good match between the animal and the guardian, because there were so many specific needs to take into consideration. Large dogs obviously need more room and more exercise, so you have to consider whether the prospective guardians can provide for those animals' needs.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, Abigail, and your great answers. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Great. Now, I think that Abigail pretty much summed up everything that we wanted to point out and highlight today. You have to be really responsible. The amount of dedication and commitment you need to welcome a new furry companion to your family is really important. So always have responsibility. And if you plan to welcome a new companion animal to your family, why not adopt and don't shop? Now, I think that's all the time and the discussion that we have for Newsgen today. But we're here every day from 9:30 to 10 a.m. Korea time, bringing you more topics young people are talking about. Special thanks today to Choi Ji-hee.
Thank you.
And Cheska Dain-hong.
Pleasure's always mine. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. We are
News Generation.